Christ, your Son, was made known by the message of an angel, may by his passion and cross be brought to the glory of his resurrection, through the same Christ our Lord. Amen.
Kini ang simbianan sa RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKS, DXKS, 1080, ang inyong Radio Ronda, 5,000 watts, nagsimbiya sa ikatulong andana sa UFCO Lim Building, Borromeo Street, Dakbayan sa Surigao. RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKS 1080, ang inyong Radio Ronda.
San Miguel quality products and add to cart. Step 3. Choose your payment method and check out. The SMC Hub delivers to anywhere in Metro Manila and to select municipalities in Cavite and Rizal. Same-day delivery is available Mondays to Saturdays if you place your order before 12 noon. Spend more time doing the things you love. Just Hub it delivered. Visit us now at thehub.sanmiguel.com.ph. Your home made better with San Miguel.
Welcome to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Tonight on the program, Senator Richard Gordon says President Duterte can be impeached over his alleged role in Pharmally Pharmaceuticals controversy, but a fellow senator seeks clarification on the matter. Less than 100 days before the May polls and pending disqualification cases against a presidential aspirant, the 7-member Commission on Elections will be reduced to 4 commissioners. And a presidential advisor recommends scrapping the alert level system and mandating a booster card in Metro Manila. Find out what the Health Department thinks about these proposals. We begin with the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee's partial report on alleged anomalies in the purchase of pandemic response supplies. Committee Chairman Richard Gordon explains the cases that can be filed against President Duterte when he steps down from office. He adds these could warrant Mr. Duterte's impeachment if time permits. Our Amor Santos reports.
Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Richard Gordon gave a litany of charges that can be filed against President Duterte for his alleged role in the Pharmally controversy. According to Gordon, Duterte could be impeached for betrayal of public trust, but there's no time left. It's the last week of Congress. Sessions resume in May with a month left for the Duterte administration.
The Ombudsman can conduct an investigation even of the President, and when he finds that there is grounds to file a case against him, he can file a case against not against any court, but in the Senate, in the lower house for impeachment. So there is no blanket rule that the President cannot be charged. He can be charged by the Ombudsman, but there is no more time.
This is why, in a partial report released after 18 hearings, Gordon said charges must be considered against citizen Duterte. In a press conference, Gordon explained the chief executive can be held liable for inciting to sedition, for banning officials from facing the Senate probe, grave threat and coercion, and breach of official duty for his attacks against the Senate and the Commission on Audit, and negligence of duty for appointing a Chinese businessman as economic advisor. Michael Yang allegedly helped and financed tiny corporation Pharmaly in its questionable supply deals with the government during the pandemic. Gordon urged the president to show some principle by moving for Yang's deportation. Despite their word war, the senator maintained he's not biased or fueled by his re-election bid. He also dismissed his House counterpart's claim that his report lacked evidence. He said he will submit the findings to the Justice Department and the Ombudsman and let them do their jobs.
I've done my work, Sheh. Let others do their work. And now others will do their work. Well, if everybody will join me in a class suit, fine. But I'm pretty sure we have very, very strong evidence beyond reasonable doubt. That's all I can say.
Gordon added anyone can file complaints against President Duterte. Health Secretary Francisco Duque, former Procurement Service Head Lloyd Christopher Lau, Michael Yang, Pharmaly executives, and others involved in the corruption scandal.
I don't want the public to think that it is only the Department of Justice that can file. Any citizen can now file sa ombudsman. You know, it's about time our people wake up and that they file the case. They can get the Blue Ribbon report. They can use us as consultants, and they can file the case. I think some people will file.
Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
Presidential aspirant and Senator Ping Lacson says the Senate may not be able to adopt the findings of the Blue Ribbon Committee. In an interview with Bombo Radio, Lacson explains that while the Senate leadership decided to extend its session until Thursday, he believes there is not enough time to discuss the committee report in the plenary. Although he has signed the report, Lacson wants more clarification.
Pag-susuri ng aming mga kasamahan. Ako nakapirma na sa committee report pero nag-indicate ako na mag-interpellate ako. Kasi meron akong gustong mga liwanagin. Lalo doon sa yung parang may recommendation yata doon na kasuhan ang Pangulong Duterte ng betrayal of public trust. Malalim na usaping legal ito. Pati yung pagkakaso doon sa lahat ng mga personalidad. So dadaan talaga ito sa, sa matinding interpellation sa floor.
Senator Manny Pacquiao says he fully supports the committee report without any reservations. The presidential hopeful also says all findings are true based on the series of hearings and that he trusts Committee Chairman Richard Gordon. Another presidential aspirant, Leody de Guzman, is calling on the Justice Department to immediately act on the Senate panel's recommendation. De Guzman says charges should be filed against all those accountable. Health Secretary Francisco Duque was a no-show day. Last night he issued a statement saying if the Blue Ribbon Committee's report will be adopted, he will fully cooperate with the court's processes as they have, quote, nothing to hide. In a television interview, acting presidential spokesperson Carla Nograles' special report. Besides, he says Malacanang has no official copy so far. But Nograles notes President has repeatedly told senators in his regular Talk to the People program to file charges against anyone. He adds the President is not protecting anyone. "96 days before the Filipino votes, senior poll officials, including the chairman, Sharif Abbas, have retired. Abbas and Commissioners Rowena a retirement ceremony this afternoon. Let's get the latest from our Melissa Lopez, who has been covering developments at the COMELEC. Mel, as of today, so still no decision on the Marcos disqualification cases, which Guanzon has been fighting for. And we also saw Guanzon and Commissioner Amy Ferolino in one room together. Tell us what happened.
Yes, Pia, that's right. Still no resolution on those Marcos cases. But today, we saw Commissioners Rowena Guanzon, Antonio Co, and Chairman Sharif Abbas, and their years of service at the COMELEC on a high note, despite that controversy about their pending disqualification cases against Bongbong Marcos. The 7 commissioners gathered for one last time for that retirement ceremony at the Hotel Sofitel in Pasay City, also the venue for the ongoing management committee meeting at the poll body. The event was off limits to the media, but Guanzon's office made available a live stream from inside the Harbor Garden tent, the same venue for the filing of candidacies in October. This was the first meeting of Guanzon and Commissioner Amy Ferolino in person after a week-old rift on the alleged delay of the Marcos cases. They sat 3 people apart. Since last week, Guanzon has been calling out Ferolino for supposedly favoring Marcos and conspiring with a male senator to deliberately stall the resolution of the cases. The two have not made up so far. In her speech, Ferolino took no shots against Guanzon and even thanked her for friendships formed from working together. Guanzon, however, did not clap her hands after Ferolino spoke, but also held back from taking any jabs and instead thanked everyone for their, quote, friendship and respect. Guanzon, Co, and Abbas's retirement leave 3 posts vacant. This comes in the middle of an election season and with the May 9 polls just around the corner. Guanzon earlier said that work at the COMELEC will definitely turn out slow as 4 people will share the load of 7 commissioners. A looming reshuffle of commissioners assigned to the 1st and 2nd divisions will also complicate case processing, with new members expected to decide on pending cases, including those against Marcos. Guanzon blames Ferolino for reaching this scenario without resolution on the Marcos case. With no decision on the cases beyond her retirement, Guanzon and Commissioner Marlon Casquejo's votes will not hold weight. The remaining commissioners Socorro Inting, Casquejo, Ferolino, and Ray Bulay turned over tokens to the retiring officials today and wished them well for the next chapter. Inting thanked Abbas for his leadership despite being the youngest poll chief in history. She says the best way to honor the 3 retirees would be to make sure elections in May are successful and clean. Now, what is life after COMELEC? What we know so far is that Guanzon and Co are both planning to stay in public service. Guanzon has a pending application for Deputy Ombudsman for the Visayas, while Co is applying to be the next Supreme Court Justice. No word yet about the next career path of Abbas. We'll try to find that out. Pia.
Well, Mel, any word on names being considered to replace Chairman Abbas and Commissioners Guanzon and Co?
What we know so far is that Malacanang has already put together a short list for President Duterte to have some options for these 3 vacancies, but we don't know whose names are on there. But meanwhile, this watchdog group called Participate is asking for independent appointments to the poll body. They say whoever President Duterte chooses to appoint should be independent. They should not be politically aligned or politically inclined, rather, and they should not come from his fraternity. Back to you, Pia.
Mel Lopez reporting from COMELEC's headquarters. Ahead on Newsnight, health experts thumbed down a proposal to do away with alert levels in areas with high COVID vaccine coverage. And 7-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady is retiring from the NFL at 44 years old. Details when we return.
Conquering the universe was the ultimate, but there's more. Dahil tinawag ho ako ng Panginoon for a major purpose. To guide the youth, help communities, and to bring others closer to Him. Kaya I take care of my health through proper diet, exercise, and MX3 capsule. I am ready to serve. Kasi para sa Panginoon, hindi lang ako 4th runner-up. First place ako sa puso niya.
Mahalagang paalala, ang MX3 capsule ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamitin panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
Sure ka ba talaga dito?
Ano ka ba? Mabait si Papa. Pa! Si Pinky po.
Paano po, Mr. Fardo?
Please, call me sir.
Aba, laki ng supermarket dito ah. Bili tayo ng drinks.
Ako na po ang drinks.
Sige na. Gutom na ako.
Kuha na mga kami, Mike.
So, paano? Mabiyahe pa tayo.
Sir, hatid ko na po kayo.
Central Hub yan. Develop na tong part ng Tarlac ah.
Sir, sagot ko na po ito.
Tingin mo sa akin. Cheap?
Sir, hindi po.
Joke lang.
Sir, pwede na po ako.
Thanks. Next time ulit. Miggy.
Max Fun! Woo!
Kay dami mong pinagdaanan, ngayon pa ba susukuan? Kung lahat tayo'y nabibigatan, sama-sama natin tong lagpasan.
sa pangarap, para sa pamilya,
para sa bayan. Hanggang sa huling patak, para sa One Metro Nation.
Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. 7,661 more people contracted the coronavirus. This brings the total case number to 3.58 million. Active infections dropped to over 160,000, excluding data from 2 laboratories. Another 43 patients died, nearly 23,400 recovered. The positivity rate, or the number of people with COVID-19 out of those tested, is at 24.8%. The World Health Organization says a positivity rate of below 5% indicates virus transmission on the ground is under control. Now, while the government is making a pandemic exit plan, should the alert level system be scrapped in areas with high COVID-19 vaccine coverage? This is the latest proposal of Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship, Joey Concepcion. But as Caroline Bonkin tells us, health officials are adamant the classification is here to stay.
Much like public storm warning signals, an alert level system is in place this pandemic. The system determines relaxations and restrictions depending on the spread of COVID-19 infection and hospital care use. But with increasing vaccine coverage in major cities, Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion says it's time to forgo the alert level system in areas with at least 70% vaccine coverage. Much like in the U.S., Concepcion says,
katulad dito sa Amerika, walang alert level dito. But we're moving right now, going out in restaurants, vaccine cards are mandated. Number 2, there is social distancing, wearing a face mask. So there is a basic minimum health protocol set up without any alert level. When you're sick, you stay home, you get well, and then you go out.
On that note, he recommends that presentation of booster shot certificate must be mandated in Metro Manila.
Kasama po yan sa mga pag-aaralan at i-discuss as we transition from the pandemic framework together with the entire world to a more endemic way of handling and mitigating the risks of COVID-19.
Dizon says most cities in Luzon already have over 70% vaccine coverage. To build a wall of immunity against the virus, the government aims to vaccinate 90 million Filipinos by end of the Duterte administration and give boosters to over 72 million people. But health officials are not buying the proposal, saying alert levels are not tied to vaccine coverage.
Evolving po ang situation. Hindi pa ho natin alam kung ano mangyayari in the future. We should always be prepared. That's why the alert level system is here. We can always stay at that lower alert level, pero pag dumating na tumataas na naman ang kaso, ito pong alert level system na ito ay gagana at makakapagbigay ng guidance kung kailangan po natin magkaroon ng mas mahigpit na restrictions because tumataas ang mga kaso.
The alert level system is there as a fail-safe na para, kasi kung tanggalin natin sila agad, anong gagawin natin kung biglang mag-spike yung kaso? Isasarado ba natin? At least yung metrics po natin ngayon, makakalibrate po natin yung response depending on how fast things are going.
The World Health Organization reminded countries it is premature to either surrender or declare victory over COVID-19. Caroline Bonkin, CNN Philippines.
The city of Cebu now rolling out booster shots in pharmacies. Interagency task force officials oversaw the rollout of the Res Bakuna sa Botica program at the Rose Pharmacy this morning. Mercury Drug, Generica, and Watson's will also be venues for the program in Cebu and other areas in the Visayas. Cebu and Baguio are the first cities outside Metro Manila to administer booster shots in pharmacies. Preparations for the May 9 polls continue with just 3 months before voting day. This morning, COMELEC handed over the flash drives kept inside silver and black metal boxes to the Bangko Central for safekeeping. These contain the source codes that will run the May 9 automated polls. The BSP vault has been the designated storage of the software codes since the shift to automated elections in 2010.
Meant only the BSP can open that vault. So COMELEC cannot enter that without the BSP. But once you enter that vault, that particular compartment where the AAS source codes are stored can be opened only by COMELEC. And it would be the executive director who has that key. The key, that's a dual padlock, the key to that. And then you have a combination lock, which is also under the sole responsibility of the COMELEC.
The flash drives will remain inside the BSC vault until 2028 unless pulled out by the poll body. An update on some presidential aspirants 96 days before the Filipino votes. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos denies his camp is secretly meeting with another vice presidential aspirant, Senate President Tito Soto. Now, this comes amid rumors Marcos's wife Liza is supporting Soto and not Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte. Marcos also rejected claims Liza sees his running mate as a threat in case their tandem wins the elections. A group of more than 70 women local government officials supports the presidential bid of Vice President Leni Robredo. The Pinunong Pinay Power says Robredo is a true servant leader, untainted by any allegation of corruption. Senator Ping Lacson offers two possible solutions to mitigate rising oil prices. In an interview with radio station DZRH, he said the country can either revisit provisions on fuel excise taxes under the train law or venture into a joint oil exploration in the West Philippine Sea.
Position ko, basta't 60-40 at sumasang-ayon sa ating saligang batas, dapat payagan lang natin. Not necessarily China, maski anong bansa na po pwedeng pumasok sa joint exploration. Sa ngayon, ang alam ko, pumapagi yung China doon sa 60-40, meaning 40% lang sila. Sa akin, symbolic yun. Ba't hindi natin papayagan? Pagka sila sumang-ayon doon sa ating saligang batas na sa joint exploration, yung joint endeavor, no? At 60-40, ibig sabihin, sa akin, subliminally, kinikilala nila sa atin yun.
Manila Mayor Isko Moreno says it's time for the government to regulate gambling activities. He notes the government should stop treating casinos like state-owned corporations and instead allow the private sector to create more gambling opportunities legally. Currently, the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation, or PAGCOR, regulates select gaming industries and helps provide income for various government programs. CNN Philippines has reached out to PAGCOR for a response to Moreno's remarks. Now, social media now playing a bigger role in the elections, but media practitioners warn the public should be on alert against disinformation. Stanley Gahete filed this report.
If you happen to swipe on messages about candidates on your device, fact-check once, twice, even 3 times. A Senate hearing on campaign messaging and social media points out how disinformation has been spread widely through a sequence of instructions called algorithm.
Misinformation or disinformation can be both positive messaging or negative messaging. Unfortunately, the trend persists despite the efforts that have gone into curbing disinformation.
UP Professor Yvonne Chua says hate speech and praises online to presidential aspirants based on research.
Majority of those are directed against presidential candidate and Vice President Leni Robredo po. So marami po talaga. Every week po, she is the biggest victim of disinformation or negative messaging po. We see substantial, also significant volume of false or misleading claims about the presidential candidate Ferdinand Marcos Jr., in which case these are largely positive or in his favor, seeking to promote him.
A separate research released by UP states information on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube has resulted in the creation of different social media communities based on interest and election issues. By using a number of tools, researchers have found out that this information comes from related networks of social media accounts.
It is the power to set agenda, to set trends, to set conversation topics. It's the conditions of the platform that makes us susceptible to manipulation.
In the same hearing, columnist John Neri describes this information on social media as democratic erosion, and voters should be on alert against such content.
Scholars like Cheryl Ruth Soriano and Fatima Gao have discovered the virtual infinity of
quote-unquote fake news and other forms of disinformation and so-called gray content may actually be classifiable into just a handful of messaging themes. Society as a whole, the government included, has a responsibility to minimize the harm that social media platforms enable or cause.
Media practitioners say stakeholders should unite against disinformation on social media by fact-checking information to help voters make an informed choice. Stanley Gete, CNN Philippines.
Up next on Newsnight, football legend Tom Brady announces his NFL retirement. Find out how celebrities are reacting to the news. Plus, players of a PBA team are set to play for Gilas Pilipinas in the FIBA qualifiers this month. Details after a short break.
Sure ka ba talaga dito?
Ano ka ba? Mabait si Papa. Pa! Si Miggy po.
Paano po, Mr. Fardo?
Please, call me sir.
Aba, laki ng supermarket dito ah. Bili tayo ng drinks.
Ako na po ang drinks.
Sige na. Gutom na ako.
Kuha na mga kami, Mike.
So, paano? Babiyahe pa tayo.
Sir, hatid ko na po kayo.
Central Hub yan. Develop na tong part ng Tarlac ah.
Sir, sagot ko na po ito.
Tingin mo sa akin. Cheap?
Sir, hindi po.
Joke lang.
Sir, pwede na po ako.
Thanks. Next time ulit. Miggy.
Max Fun! Woo!
CNN Philippines football superstar Tom Brady is saying goodbye to his NFL career after over 2 decades in the league. Following days of speculation, the 44-year-old quarterback announced his retirement on social media. It reads in part, quote, "I have loved my NFL career, and now it is time to focus my time and energy on other things that require my attention," unquote. Brady also thanked his team, his family, and his supporters, among them a number of celebrities who have gone online to congratulate Tom. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson commented on Brady's post saying, quote, "Go enjoy the next chapter." NBA icons Stephen Curry and Shaquille O'Neal also reacting to the news, with Shaquille saying Tom should play for 1 more year. Former baseball player Alex Rodriguez left a comment calling Tom the GOAT, or the greatest of all time. And back here at home, we might see some players from reigning PBA Philippine Cup champion TNT Tropang Giga join the national men's basketball team this month to fill gaps in the Gilas pool. Coach Chot Reyes has requested to tap some Tropang Giga athletes for the February window of the FIBA World Cup qualifiers. Some Gilas players are unavailable because of activities abroad. Philippine Basketball Association Commissioner Willie Marshall says the league will adjust TNT's schedule in the Governor's Cup, so Gilas will have time to prepare for the qualifiers. The national team will face South Korea on February 24th, India on the 25th, and New Zealand on the 27th. And that is it for now. Join me again on news.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Kini ang simbianan sa RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKS. DXKS. 1080. Ang inyong Radio Ronda. 5,000 watts. Nagsimbiya sa ikatulong andana sa UFCO Lim Building, Borromeo Street, Dakbayan sa Surigao. RPN, Radio Philippines Network. DXKS 1080, ang inyong Radio Ronda.
For many of us, we never really think much about our gallbladder, like we do our heart or the liver. But the gallbladder has a very important role in our digestive system. It's a relatively small organ located just under the liver. And there's a reason why these two organs sit next to each other. Think of them as the liver as some sort of a factory, while your gallbladder is like a warehouse. So the liver produces bile while the gallbladder stores and releases that bile to help break down mainly fats when you eat. You need bile to break down fats, which are actually one of the hardest parts of the food to digest. And when you break down the fats, you transform it into energy that the body can use. Today on the program, we'll talk about how to keep your gallbladder in good health to avoid the likelihood of problems such as inflammation and gallstones. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is Med Talk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. The gallbladder is a key component of our digestive system, and our guests are here today to tell us more about how it works, what it's for, and why we need to ensure that our gallbladder is healthy. With us is Dr. Catherine Te. She's the Chief of Hepatobiliary and Pancreatic Center in Makati Medical Center and the President of the Philippine Hepatobiliary Surgeons. Also with us is Dr. Ira Inductivo Yu. She is a gastroenterologist from National Kidney and Transplant Institute and Diliman Doctors Hospital and the president of the Philippine Society of Gastroenterology. Now, when someone eats fatty food, your gallbladder receives a signal to react. I'll start first with Dr. Cathy. How does it all work? Please explain to our viewers yung basic functions ng ating gallbladder o ang ating abdo.
Well, technically, the gallbladder is a storage. It's a reservoir. You know, it stores the bile because the bile is secreted in the liver, and then it is 80% of it is stored in the gallbladder. Once we eat, there is some signal that is sent to the gallbladder to stimulate it, and then it will send the bile or push the bile down into the biliary tract to bring the bile down to the intestines for digestion, to help in the digestive process. So technically, it's just a reservoir.
But bile has other functions as well. Dr. Ira, let's talk about that next. Some of the other functions ng bile natin.
The bile also facilitates digestion of other nutrients, and particularly when it comes to vitamins, it facilitates the digestion and absorption of fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, D, E, and K.
Now, we keep hearing time and time again to eat healthy, and here are more reasons why. Because certain foods can actually protect and promote a healthy gallbladder. Dr. Cathy, pag-usapan naman natin, what are these gallbladder-friendly foods naman?
We know that we need to have a good diet, a balanced diet. And basically, everything that is less fatty will be healthy for the gallbladder. Because when there is an imbalance in the amount of fat, for example, cholesterol, and then the bile salts, when there is a difference in the concentration, that's when gallstones develop. And therefore, foods that are less fatty are the ones that are healthy to the gallbladder. Okay. So that's in a general sense, no?
Right.
But there are some certain kinds of food, for example, fish, sardines, leafy vegetables, and these are very good food for the gallbladder.
Now, when you look at the list that was shown to you, you can see a variety of protein and vitamin-rich food. And these are a mix of food items that can also make you enjoy your meals at the same time. Now, fruits and vegetables are especially full of nutrients as well as fiber. So incorporate these into your diet, not just to keep the gallbladder healthy, but they're good for the overall health of your body. Now, Dr. Ira, pag-usapan naman natin yung mga food items na pwedeng mag-increase ng likelihood ng mga problema sa gallbladder. So what are some of the foods that our viewers should avoid naman?
Anything that is very high in fat, anything that is very high in oil, the processed foods, we should try to avoid them. Avoiding this type of food will decrease the likelihood for patients to have gallbladder stones or gallbladder sludge. And if it so happens that you already have the stones there, if you try to avoid, again, oily processed foods, there is now a decreased likelihood for you to have inflammation of your gallbladder. So stay away from them. Stay away from eating too much lechon and sisig, and try your vegetables and fruits. So even if there's a fiesta and the Christmas break is coming, try to control the urge to divulge too much, to indulge yourself too much on fatty foods.
Ultimately, we want to avoid gallbladder problems such as gallstones or the inflammation of the gallbladder, and our food choices can make or break that situation. So how do we treat these various conditions? We'll find out when we return. So stay with us on MedTalk Health Talk, only here on CNN Philippines.
Protektahi ang imong mga mata batok sa delikado ug makadaot nga ultraviolet nga silaw sa adlaw ug uban pa. Pinaagi sa pagsulob og eksakto nga prescription sa antiyohos o antipara. Likay ang mga simptomas sama sa hanap nga pananaw sa layo o duol nga basahon, sakit sa ulo ug uban pa nga makaapekto sa atong kahimsog nga ang hinungdan depekto sa atong mga mata. Alang sa kumpleto nga primary eye care, contact lenses, fashion eyewear, computer eyeglasses, sunglasses, accessories ug uban pa, adto kita sa AG Buñuel Optical Clinic. Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic nagpahinumdum kanato nga ang kahimsog sa atong mga mata usa ka prioridad nga angay ipa-check up kausa matag tuig aron pagsiguro nga luwas kita sa piligrong mga sakit. Pinaagi sa lisensyado og qualified optometrists nga maoy mo prescribe sa eksaktong kagamitan og kung primary eye care ang paghisgutan. Duaw lang silang buhatan sa 3636 sa Nicolas Street, Surigao City ug adunay ilang extension office sa Aurelianida Street, Cantilan, Surigao del Sur. Ayaw kalimti higala, AG Buñuel Optical Clinic.
Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic doon na branch dito sa lungsod sa Dapa sa may Lupis Haina Street, Poblasyon Dapa, Surigao del Norte.
Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic dinhi sa syudad ng Surigao no transfer na sa bag-ong location sa Nicolas Street Ragyahapon, tapad sa Garcia Hotel at bang sa Unicity. Ang Riverside Parts Master Incorporated na silang bagong location sa Dalan, Burgos ning atong syudad. Mahimo niyong tawagan sa telephone number 231-7478 or 826-3663. Mga produkto nga inyong mapalit, genuine, Makita Power Tools sama sa planer, drill, grinder, Triton Paints, construction supplies, angle bars, flat bars, GI pipes, automotive spare parts, Firefly electrical devices sama sa switches, bulbs ug outlets. Adto ang Riverside Parts Master Incorporated sa ilang bagong pwesto sa Dalan, Burgos ning syudad. Makahangyo ka o makabarato pagyod diha sa Riverside Parts Master Incorporated.
Haharapin na ang tanong at isyu ng bayan. Ilalahad ang kani-kanilang plataporma at programa para sa taong bayan. Sama-sama nating kilatisin ang mga kandidatong tumatakbo sa pagkapangulo. Inimbitahan ang 6 sa kanila. Sino nga ba ang karapat-dapat na mamuno sa bansa? Panatas sa Bayan, the KBP Presidential Candidates Forum, hatid sa inyo ng buong puwersa ng kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas. Moderated by Karen Davila from ABS-CBN and Rico Hizon from CNN Philippines. At mga panelists na magtatanong at bubusisi sa ating mga kandidato mula sa iba-ibang broadcast at digital news networks. Bombo Elmar mula sa Bombo Radio Philippines. Robbie Alampay mula sa One News, Dan Andrew Cura mula sa Far East Broadcasting Company at Ed Lingao mula sa TV5. Makakasama rin natin ang iba-ibang miyembro ng kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas mula Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao. Panata sa Bayan, the KBP Presidential Candidates Forum, ngayong February 4, alas 9 ng umaga. Mapapanood sa mahigit 300 estasyon ng radyo at telebisyon.
RPN Radio Philippines Network, Radyo Ronda DXKS Surigao, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, where caring is our calling. Your gallbladder works to store and release your bile, a fluid that helps the body break down and digest the food that you eat, in particular fat. Fat takes longer to digest than other foods, but you need it. It supports several of your body's functions and gives your body that energy that it needs. It's in our best interest to keep our gallbladder healthy throughout the food we eat. Dr. Kathy, explain natin sa mga viewers kung ano ba talaga ang mga gallstones. How does it form?
That's really the most common problem that we encounter, the gallstones, no? Basically, the bile has to maintain a certain balance in the concentration of the fats and the bile salts and water. So if there is a critical elevation of one component, for example, cholesterol, mataas ang level ng cholesterol, then the formation of cholesterol stones can happen in the gallbladder.
Now, another thing that may disrupt this balance that Dr. Kathy mentioned is that of skipping meals. Dr. Ira, is the practice of skipping meals, can this increase the likelihood of one person developing gallstones?
Yes, you're right. Apparently it is. In fact, if you look at the literature, people engaging themselves on crash diets are at higher risk for developing gallstones. So even if this strategy is very effective for weight loss reduction, it has another side to it. And that's what we do not want. If you indulge yourself in too fast weight reduction, in too prolonged intermittent fasting, in the long run, you might end up with gallbladder sludge.
Gallstones themselves are not necessarily the problem, and if they're not bothering you, most of the time, they don't need to be surgically removed, but they may not go away on their own. That's why I'd like to ask Dr. Ira, for those who may be concerned that they already have bile stones, is it proper for our viewers to probably, even though they don't feel any symptoms, to have a check with their doctor if they do have beginning gallstones? Is this something that they should be worried about?
Yeah, definitely yes. Okay, anything that is not supposed to be in the body should be treated and should be seen by a doctor, and that would include your gallbladder stone. In fact, these stones, even if they are there, patients should be advised properly on how to prevent inflammation of the gallbladder and what to do if ever inflammation occurs. Now, there are certain patients that should be looked into more closely because these are patients that might develop more severe complications of gallbladder. And this basically would include the diabetic patients and the elderly patients, and even patients who are on chemotherapy or immunosuppressants because they have higher tendency for infection to set in. So these are the patients that we should be looking more intently.
Now, Dr. Ira, you mentioned quite a few other comorbid conditions, ibang mga sakit like diabetes for one. Another question is, namamana ba itong mga gallbladder stones?
There are some risk factors that have been identified that would increase the risk for gallbladder inflammation when a stone is present. And this would include, first and foremost, the age. Apparently, the older you get, the higher your tendency to have cholecystitis or gallbladder wall inflammation. And they usually ascribe it to an increase in biliary cholesterol secretion in the bile. And the fact that as you age also, unfortunately, the gallbladder emptying time is also lessened. So if you try to connect these two factors together, then there you go. You have a higher tendency for cholecystitis. Now, some also would say that if you had a prior history of a stroke or a cardio or a cerebrovascular disease, you have a higher tendency for cholecystitis. But the connection and the reasoning behind it, although not fully elucidated, is there. So I think these are the people that you should again intently monitor for signs and symptoms of gallbladder complications.
Could you share with our viewers what are some of the usual warning signs that someone may have a gallbladder that needs immediate medical or surgical treatment for that matter?
Unfortunately, most of our patients with gallbladder, they don't feel anything bad. In fact, a lot of them, they will just have it incidentally diagnosed during a general checkup. However, for those who develop symptoms, the usual complaint is bloatedness, or they have this heavy feeling in the tiyan nila, mabigat, makabag. Now, for some patients, they may have pain, colicky pain on and off for several months that they will just dismiss as just having peptic ulcer disease or gastritis. Now, for the more complicated scenarios, these patients could have persistent abdominal pain. They can have even jaundice. They can have inflammation of the pancreas. They can even have sepsis because of cholangitis. Okay. Now, where is the pain usually located? So naturally, if the gallbladder becomes inflamed, the pain is localized in the right upper quadrant or in the middle of the abdomen. These are the usual reasons why they go to the clinic.
Okay, now Dr. Ira, as a follow-up to that, if someone feels those symptoms already, does medical treatment have a role here, or is it most often than not a surgical case by this time?
If the patient comes to you already with cholecystitis, the recommendation is admit, give antibiotics, and do the cholecystectomy, ideally within the same hospital admission.
Okay. The best thing here is don't wait too long. So go see a doctor when you experience any of these problems. Don't set it aside or don't think it may go away on its own. So if surgery is the only option to treat this condition, what does life look like without a gallbladder? We'll discuss this after a short break. Your health is our mission here on MedTalk Health Talk. You're watching CNN Philippines.
Maayong balita sa tanan sa atong panginahanglan sa panimalay, mga gamit, ingon man mga dekorasyon, pwede na natong mapalit diha sa Wellington Bazaar. Anausab sa Wellington Bazaar ang mga bestidahon, karsunison, plain t-shirt, plastic chair, floor mat, mantel, banig, folding bed, habol, mosketero, trapal, lideret, basketball, stuffed toys ug mga dulaan sa bata. Ang Wellington Bazaar ana magalagad kanato sa dalan Kaymo ning Dakbayan sa Surigao. Wellington Bazaar, gikan sa mga kawani ug tigdumala sa Wellington Bazaar. Mayong adlaw alang kaninyo. Wellington Bazaar, sukyon ta sa kanunay.
Kasakit yun sa ako ang mga mata. Uy, labad pagyud kay ako ang ulo. Murag kog malipong ba? Unya, murag limtanon pagyud ko. Unsaon man ni, uy.
Naanag yun ay kay problema, miss. Ha? Tanawa ko, nagsakay ka na sa tricycle. Wala kay suot, bra. Para masolba na imo problema. Ha? Pag inuman ni, Lutein Plus.
Unsa? Lutein Plus? Asa man na nimo gikan?
Ako man ninadunggan sa radyo, miss. Maong kagapalit ko naan. Pagpagandam ba?
Sige, salamat kayo ha. Magpalit dayon ko og Lutein Plus.
RPN Regional AM radio stations nationwide welcomes CNN Philippines, a first on radio. To bring you the latest news you can use, news you can trust. Listen to Newsnight, weekdays 6 p.m.
We now go above and beyond the headlines.
Followed by MedTalk Health Talk.
We'll talk about how to keep ourselves healthy during the pandemic.
Politics as usual.
Our guests for tonight, two political science professors.
Up close and more. Catch CNN Philippines Hour in all RPN AM radio stations. Weekdays, 6 to 7 p.m.
Radio Philippines Network. Radyo Ronda DXKS Surigao. Member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is Mental Health Talk, your partner in healthcare. Your gallbladder can be removed if necessary. Now, people without it can live a normal and healthy life. But this means your body isn't able to store bile in your gallbladder anymore because it has been removed. And as a result, some dietary changes are recommended at first to help your body adapt. Dr. Ira, what if someone has their gallbladder removed but still continues to eat a high-fat diet? Are there any further complications that may happen? Just to remind our viewers that eating healthy is definitely a plus.
Of course, it's not only the gallbladder that is affected by a high-fat diet. Remember, the liver, can have fatty deposition. In fact, we should eat healthy. We have to really lessen the fat for good health. Fatty liver is now a worldwide. It's a silent pandemic. And our notion before is it's just fatty liver. It will not kill me. But the problem is it's a progressive disease. And for all we know, we might end up with a lot of liver fibrosis or liver cirrhosis. So even if you do not have the gallbladder, even if you're not concerned with gallbladder stone because there's no gallbladder to begin with, you have to take care of your liver. You have to take care of your heart. And there's also such a thing as common bile duct stone. So I think you should eat healthy. Try to lessen the fatty foods.
As a reminder to our viewers to always eat healthy because it will not only manage the presence of problems with your gallbladder, but with your liver, your heart, and your whole body in general. Now, I'd like to ask Dr. Kathy, when it comes to problems with the gallbladder, ang problema lang ba ay stones or can infection and inflammation also be a cause for concern when it comes to our gallbladder? And when it comes to the stones, sa gallbladder lang ba sila nakikita?
That's very important for our viewers to know because the stones can cause the infection. Now, sometimes there's also what we call as a acalculous cholecystitis, where there's no stone but there's infection in the gallbladder. So these needs to be treated as well. And the stones, sometimes they're not only in the gallbladder. So if this migrates, the patient can turn jaundice. They will become yellow and they can develop fever. Ito yung tinatawag na cholangitis. So we don't want patients to develop cholangitis, which is infection within the biliary system.
Now, before we go, I'd like to ask Dr. Ira, are there any tips that you could share with our viewers when it comes to not just gallbladder health, but liver health as well?
Unfortunately, fatty liver is becoming one of the more common reasons now for liver cirrhosis. So we need to stop as early as possible, need to stop this bad habit of eating lots of fatty foods. Second, we need to regulate and avoid too much alcohol consumption. So if you can control your urge to drink alcohol, you have to control it right now. And then, of course, vaccinate. So we need to maximize the opportunity that we have to vaccinate ourselves and our family. We all need it. And then, of course, have your regular checkup. As physicians, we would like to see you in our clinic just for a good annual checkup. We don't like to see you with a very sick liver already. So please consult early.
Dr. Kathy, is there anything you'd like to add? Any advice for the viewers before we go?
Sometimes we do not take too much into account the diet of our children. And parang, oh, bata pa yan eh, pwede to. But in reality, the healthy lifestyle should start while they're young so that they develop into a good habit.
Maraming salamat, hepatobiliary surgeon Dr. Catherine Te and gastroenterologist Dr. Ira Inductivo Yu for being with us today. We appreciate your time and insights very much. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and thank you for watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We'll see you again next time. Stay safe.